Tonight's screencast is going to go over some basic vocabulary necessary for geometry. And we are going to start by going over what your book describes as being undefined terms. Point, line, and plane. These three words are undefined because there's no formal definition. Rather, it's easier to describe the three. So if we're talking about a point, you can consider a dot to be a point. Again, we're not being very formal here, but if I asked you to sketch or draw a point, you'd probably do exactly as I did. And that is good enough. All right, a point or points are zero-dimensional. And what that means is that it cannot be measured. There is no thickness to points. Absolutely no thickness at all. This dot that we have drawn right here does have a thickness, but we can only do so much. We're going to have to refer to points, so we've got to come up with something to indicate a point. This is our best deal right here. It's just a dot. And we use capital letters, so keep that in mind. Capital letters are used to notate points. So if you see a capital letter, it doesn't matter what capital letter, and there's no descriptor before that, know that you are looking at a point right here. So we've got a dot, and it's point A. The next undefined term is a line, and a line is a collection of points, and it extends infinitely. Meaning it goes on forever and ever and ever. It never stops. It actually never starts. It extends infinitely in two directions. So if I were to ask you to draw a line, you'd likely do something like this, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong, except that this is actually a segment because it starts here, it ends here. We want something to extend infinitely. So what we need to do is draw arrowheads on either side of this segment to make the segment a line. All right, we've got a line. It extends infinitely in two directions. Lines are one-dimensional. So I'm just going to use the word one, use the capital letter D for dimension, one-dimensional. And since a line is made up or composed of points, there is no thickness to lines either. Again, because you're using lead and a pencil, there's a thickness to this line, but keep in mind that there is no thickness when we are actually talking about lines. Theoretically, no thickness. All right, I'm going to throw some points on this line. I've got point A, I've got point B, and this is going to help me notate it. To notate a line, you can use any 2 points on that line, and since I only have A and B labeled, know that there's an infinite number of points in between A and B, an infinite number of points after B, and again, an infinite number of points before A. But I only have 2 points labeled, so I'm going to use those 2 points. And I am going to draw a symbol above those letters. This would indicate a segment. Again, I want a line, so I'm using arrowheads to indicate a line. Those are absolutely awful arrowheads. Let me try that again. This might be really hard for me to do. All right, that looks a little better. Hopefully yours looks better than mine. That's line AB. That's how we denote it. The other way we can denote it, that's one of 2 ways, is with a lowercase script letter. So I'm going to use L right here. I didn't need these 2 points. If I had this line drawn and a lowercase cursive letter, you can refer to a line just by using that. All right, our last undefined term is a plane. Now, a plane you can consider like a sheet of paper. You can think of it as being a flat collection of points extending indefinitely. Another word for infinitely, indefinitely. Planes are actually 2-dimensional, And again, take a wild guess as to their thickness. They're made up of points. If points have no thickness, planes have no thickness. We have three different types of planes. We've got horizontal planes and we've got vertical planes. Horizontal planes, you start by, the third one rather are neither. They're neither horizontal nor vertical. They're kind of staggered. So to draw a horizontal plane, you're going to start with horizontal lines, stagger them a bit, and then connect their endpoints. So there you've got a horizontal plane. I'm going to throw a capital letter out there to show how we denote it. If you only use that capital letter, if you only say N right there, you are going to be confusing a point with a plane or a plane with a point, because keep in mind, capital letters by themselves refer to points and not planes. So what we need to do is use the word plane and say plane N. That is one way to denote a plane. All right, let's start with vertical planes. Vertical planes, you start with vertical lines. Again, you connect their endpoints. And I'm going to throw some points out there. So I'm labeling some points A, B, C, D. And again, you don't see the dots, but this plane extends in all directions. So they don't actually start, the plane does not start and stop here. A way that we can define or notate this plane is by using any 3 points on that plane. So we can say A, B, C, we can say A, B, C, D. You can use either 3 or 4 points that are on this plane. If you are using 3 points or 4 points, make sure that they are non-collinear, and we are going to get there on the next slide. Okay, moving on. We've got some defined terms. These are defined. We can have formal definitions for these guys. And we are going to start with space. Space, wave your hand around in it. It is a collection of all points. All points. And this is three-dimensional. The fourth dimension is time. We are not talking about time. We're talking about physical space. A collection of all points in 3 dimensions. You cannot sketch space, so we're going to leave this blank. All right, collinear. We can definitely use context clues to figure out what collinear means. We've got this prefix co. Co means with or together. So I see co, I see the root word line here, except that I'm covering it up, and so therefore you cannot see it. Let's do this again. Root word line, co meaning with or together. So collinear points are points in the same line. Points in the same line. So I've sketched a line over here, and any of these points, there's an infinite number of points on these lines, on this line. All of these points that I've just sketched are what we call collinear. If you look at this line, and I'm sketching 2 points there, and I'm throwing a third over here, these 3 points together are non-collinear. Again, we're using root words. You know what collinear means now. Non means points not on the same line. In a similar way, we can talk about coplanar. I bet you can figure out what that means now. Co, again, meaning together or with. We've got a root word. This root word is plane. So, using context clues, coplanar points are points on the same plane. I've sketched a plane here, so I'm going to throw some points on it. All those points are coplanar. And if we have non-coplanar points, you've probably guessed it 5 minutes ago, they are points not on the same plane. So sketching these three, and then I'm throwing one way out here. It's as if you're looking at your sheet of paper, right? You've got some points on your sheet of paper, and then you've got this point out here in that third dimension. That's your head. Let's say this is your head, this is your piece of paper. There's no way to connect all four of these points with one single plane. All right, we'll take your questions tomorrow, and the rest of your homework is detailed in your homework calendar. So I will see you in class tomorrow. Good night.